Guys, let me take this and delete this because we don't really need it. Which one is it? Right here. Delete forever. There's a few of my stream that I did, and there's some interruption, so I cancel it. Hopefully, yeah, this one too. Yeah, let's keep it here, and then we will work on something else. So here, let's try, and I did this during lunch, and what is this? Why is it like this? Right, so I did this in during lunch, and it's just basically really simple. Now it's turned into more like a.
On gone. It was actually gone that.
Well, let me turn on chat. Chat. Hey Alexa, open YouTube. Boom. Okay. Okay, so now I did this during my lunch, and here is. Let me turn on some country. Country music. Then music beat. Boom! Country music beat. 2.2. Right, guys. So I did this during. Let me skip the ad. The ad, it's annoying. Right, so let me talk through this app. So it's basically just taking two parameters. So parameters, in order for it to deconstruct, you have to add this. So you can say, yeah, it need to be like this for it to run like this, because you need to deconstruct them. If you just put it like this with no brackets, it's not deconstructed. So you need to state prop somewhere over here, if I'm right. Boy, what happened? Hey Alexa, open YouTube. Oh, why? What? But what the hell? Right, so now if it takes into parameter like this, it's not going to work because it's not deconstruct, so they don't really know. Right, we do this and then it would work. So let's watch back the deconstruct props.
Concept of object destructuring. However, just in case, we'll do a quick recap. Say I have an object called person. In ES6 and later, I can destructure the properties of that object in order to get simpler to use variable names. For example, if I wanted to log person.phone, I obviously could just use console log person.phone and everything would work just fine. However, in certain circumstances, it can be nice to destructure this object and pull out the property names for your own use. That looks kind of like this. I might say const, and then I'll use an object syntax, say image, comma, name, and then set that equal to person, my object. What that does is it declares two new variables, img and name, which I can then use in order to, say, console log the name. If I open the console, you can see I'm getting Mr. Whiskerson here. So that's the concept of object destructuring. The reason I bring that up is that it's a fairly common thing to do this in React with the incoming props that you receive. The parameter that you put inside of your component will be an object that represents all of the props that your component received. So what I could decide to do is just destructure that object immediately as I receive it inside of my function here, which means that I could say curly braces, image, name, phone, and email. It's important to note that I can't rename this to something else like image unless I do a little bit of trickery using colons, like image, colon, image. But we're not going to be too concerned about that for now. The point being, I don't get to change the name of the prop while I'm bringing it in. I need to make sure that it's exactly as the prop was being passed in at the time that the component.
It's hard to explain like all this parameter and stuff, but it's basically just, hey, there's like a setup and punchline somewhere else, somewhere like, because we call this function, we call, here we call joke, and then joke has a two, what is it, props, called props, right? And now we state two of this prop, and here it is going to print out and the props name, the props, and it's automatically run through this. It's going to print four of them, three of them, because we state here call it 3 times. It's complicated because it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain, but it's just for reusability. So yeah, you can put as many setup here. You just need to call it as the number of time joke that you want, and then you got the setup and punchline. You just have to state like what is that punchline or setup is going to be, and then you can call it here, and then it's going to print out whatever you want. All right, so there's 3 punchline and setup, so it's a total of 6. So right here, 6. Alright, so if it call here is run this function. Oh, now it's looking at punchline and setup. Oh, punchline is here, setup is here. So now it's print out. Oh, now this setup is going to be boom. What's your best thing about Switzerland? It's a big plus. The flag is a big plus, right? So this is hard to explain.
App.js. Again, I'll import React from React. Anytime we need JSX in our code, then I'm going to import React. And I will export my component. I have the app rounds option, and it's okay. The punchline. Now I can tell that my punchline is going to make each of these a little bit too long. So while I'm here, I'm going to put these on their own lines. Okay, and then I have all the punchlines copied as well. Now think for a second. I haven't hit save yet. Think for a second. What is going to change, if anything, on my screen here? Said nothing's going to change, then you're right, and that's because I am passing props in, but my component is not making use of them at all. Well, just like any function, whenever I run it, it will run this console log. And in our case, because we have 5 instances of a joke component, that's also activate the thing I just thought of. I might want to think that that's full of for credit. Then if this came down to setup and the punchline, I said something like setup colon and punchline colon. Now when I hit refresh, we can see that, well, it's a little bit broken here. Again, this isn't something that we've taught, so I didn't necessarily expect you to fully grasp this concept quite yet. But as an advanced sneak peek into conditional rendering, something that I can do is actually only render this H3 if props.setup exists. One really concise way that we're going to learn about is to surround my JSX in curly braces, which means that I'm putting it inside of a JavaScript interpretation. And then I can say props.setup and this H3. We're going to learn about how a lot of the neat little tricks that we can then render the thing on the right side of my AND operator here. If it's a falsy value, however, it won't render anything at all. So I can hit save and it will look good in another way. For none when props.setup does not exist. Well, I could, obviously this is a much more operator or this more concise AND operator to accomplish our goals. I'm hoping this was helpful to our section project.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry that we're still here on the jokes, but I realize there's one more thing we need to cover before we jump back into our section project. And that is, how can we pass a prop that is not just a string? The concept of props, like we talked about, is very similar to the concept of attributes in HTML. And with HTML, we always pass in a string as our data type here. However, we are not limited by that in React. So far, we've only done strings. However, because this is JavaScript, it's React, which is JavaScript, we can pass in any JavaScript data type to our components as props. So I want you to think critically here. How might you pass in a prop that wasn't a string data type? Let's say, for example, you want a number passed to each one of these jokes that eventually will represent the number of upvotes and downvotes for this joke. Or maybe you want to pass in an array of comment objects. And then you might say, I want to allow people to filter out the puns or only show the puns in my jokes. In which
Dun, 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 dun.
case, I might pass a prop called isPun, which is the value true or false, not the string true or false, but the actual Boolean value true or false. Accomplishing this uses something that you've already learned at this point. So I want you to try and think critically. See if you can figure out how you would pass in a non-string value as the prop to your component. And be curious with it, play with it. Actually give it a try, don't just think about it. Pause here and see if you can figure that out.
So you want each your component to receive an upvote or downvote, that is in numbers, as well as a prop with an array of comments, and a boolean whether this is a joke is a pun. What the fuck? Alright, so we do its pun. It's going to take a true false value equal. It's not going to be boolean JavaScript. Give it all love. Give it all love. What a joke is a pun? Huh. Living on love, but you know, da, da, da. Boom, bum, 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 bum. Mm. 1 or 0, right? It's just like a toggle. So it's like upvote equal 1. So we do like a if upvote equal 1. We have to put it in a bracket. It's going to be true. Upvote equal true else if equal 1. So it's going to be upvote equal 0 equal false. Right. Oh, la, 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 la. So it's going to be new. It's an empty string. It's going to toggle, like. Let's just hard code it in. Upvote equals 0. String. Zero. What the hell? Why is not working?
In JSX, could say ispun equals and the same into JavaScript and send in a Boolean value like true. And then I could do the same thing for these others. And then, of course, for the ones that are not puns, I can change this to the JavaScript value Boolean value of false. And then do the same thing for my jokes up here.
So it's not like a.
Actually, I'm struggling now to think if this joke is a pun or not. This might be a pun because it's talking about puns. Anyway, you get the point. By introducing these curly brackets, I can put any JavaScript value in here. So again, if I wanted to pass in a number, I could say upvotes is 10, downvotes is 2. And if I had an array of comments, I could say comments equals, and then this can get as complicated as I want. I can say an array of objects, and maybe those objects have an author property, and it's got some author ID, and then the body of the comment itself, and then maybe there's even a title to the comment.
Wow.
And whatnot. Of course, it's an array, so it could be multiples of those, and so forth. I can even put JavaScript expressions in here to determine what the value being passed into the props should be. That's getting a little bit more advanced than I want to jump into now, but the point is these curly braces essentially give us free reign to throw any JavaScript we want inside of the curly braces. And whatever that JavaScript expression resolves to is the value that the prop will pass down to our component. And you'll see we get a bunch of Boolean values. I could even do props.comments.title. And actually that's going to cause an error because I didn't pass a comments prop to all of them, but let's do props.comments. See, we get a bunch of undefineds, but one of them has an array of objects. So I think you get the point. That's going to help us as we go back to our Airbnb experiences clone. So that's what we're finally going to jump back into now.
So let's see. Okay, it's getting a little bit harder, but I get the idea why. Why there's so many ads on YouTube nowadays. Right, so let's go back into my Airbnb apps.
Your challenge is to pass these props that I've outlined here into our card component, and then inside of our card component, receive those props and make use of them. It's a little bit of a hint and a heads up. There's a couple instances that we're not passing in strings, or strings that we are passing in that we to slightly modify in order for them to work. I guess so
Slightly
that's not too
modify.
cryptic. The image that we're passing in here, you'll notice, is only the title of the image file. It doesn't include any path to the image itself. The astute of you might know that what we're doing here still is requiring us to hardcode data into our component. And in the real world, that's not what we're going to do. However, we haven't quite gotten there yet. In an upcoming lesson very soon, we're going to see a way that this would actually be structured a little more realistically. But I want to get your hands on the keyboard practicing, like I always say. So work on this challenge until you can show our card component looking essentially exactly the way it is now, but without the hard-coded data inside of the card itself. Pause here and start on that.
Got it. Right, let me have my seat up and tight. Export default apps, right? Online experience, we don't need that. Need the cards. Alright, so now we have to do is that we deconstruct it, but in the app, each card is going to have, right? So this card is going to have a, what is IMGs equal, the path is going to be this. So first of all, we need to do this, images slash now it's going to be here, and then we do stars grading. Let's copy all of this out so that we can play with it. Jeez, shoot. Ow. Equal life lesson with this could be a string. Country, let's do USA. Now we need to change this into a string, into a JavaScript format. Okay, it's good. Should be a string or it's a mix values. Let's go into the cards. Let's do this. So let's deconstruct, and we copy all of this out. Image rating. Wait, how do you do it? Oh, right. Copy. commas, 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 and space. Right. All right, mates. This is here is going to be IMG. Well, the star is going to be there. Last name here is going to be rating. Here is going to be review count, and then this is going to be country. Here is going to be title. 99.99%. Price. Dun, 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 dun. Alright, let's run this. It is good. It is good, baby. Let's see if are there any mistake. Nope, no mistake. What is it? 56. .0. It should be on a new line, right? Should be 6. And then we can do, where is it? Our cut. Can we do this? Let's try this. Woo! There we go. We are finished. Right now we just need to call new cards, and we are good.
Okay, I already know that I'm going to have too many props to put on one line, so I'm just going to start them on the next line. And we'll set the 5.0.
Let's skip through this.
For the title, we'll once again copy this. And the price I'm going to send in as 36. In this case, I don't think it makes a huge difference because of it. I'm going to... Now, right away, we run into a little bit of a challenge. Like I mentioned, we're only passing in the file name and extension. We're not passing in the whole path. But I can't just do string concatenation, like saying /images/ and then plus my props.image, because this plus is not going to make sense. Now, I could do that by surrounding this entire thing here in curly braces, but I'm going to make use of the ES6 templating string syntax with these backticks, and that way I can put my $sign curly braces. Now, this is probably starting to get confusing. Inside of a template string, I can insert values by using $sign curly braces. That's where my props.image will go. However, I can't just put backticks surrounding everything here because that doesn't make sense in JSX. Now, this is the tricky part. If I surround the backticks because they are a JavaScript expression in curly braces, then suddenly this expression makes sense. I think this is probably the trickiest part of this challenge. I'm hoping it didn't frustrate anyone too much, but I totally understand if it did, because it's a confusing back and forth. Remember, up here we're in JavaScript, then we jump into JSX, then with the curly braces we jump back into JavaScript, and that's why I can use my backticks inside of JavaScript and inside template string.
Wait, I don't think we complicated it like that, right? We should do dot image. Why don't we do this? Hey. It still it works. But why it doesn't work here? Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. It works. Huh. Maybe my way of doing things is faster?
Curly braces to insert JavaScript values into this string is called interpolation. I end my backtick and then I get out of JavaScript and I jump back into JSX. Hopefully you can follow all that. I understand if that's confusing. The rest of this should be really pretty straightforward.
Straightforwards, baby.
Instead of putting a hard-coded 5.0, I can put my curly brace. I'm going to put props dot, which is why I can then put my JavaScript value as paired for the price that I'm passing in. I'll hit refresh, and okay. Last thing, I'm going to clean up my console log up here, get different cards showing up in my list. Really great work. If you were able to follow along with this entire lesson, I really hope that this has been helpful. Of course, as always, go back, revisit these, and ask lots of questions in Discord. Coming up, we're going to be addressing that issue where currently we are still hard-coding this data into our code here. So that's the next topic we're going to tackle. This lesson is basically a spoiler alert for what we're about to learn, because we are going to see how we can use the array.map method to take regular JavaScript data and turn it into JSX elements that can be displayed on the screen. And so this felt like a really natural time to do a quick review of the .map method. If it's been a while or you're feeling a bit hazy about the .map method, you can click the screenshot here. That will take you to the MDN docs on the map method. And I would just recommend going through reading everything they have, playing with the interactive demos they have and everything like that to help bring you up to speed on .map. So what we'll be doing is a series of challenges. I've got 3 challenges here, but instead of just going through everything in one go, I'm going to have you do challenge 1 first, then we'll go through it together, then challenge 2, go through it together, then challenge 3.
Okay.
Remember, the goal is to look at our input data and try to turn it into some output data.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time it by the same numbers. So square roots, right? No, square. Square 2, square 3, square 4. Alright. Give an array of numbers and return in each numbers. So we do. Well, what is the array.map? Const map.array1. Okay. Alright. So card is const new num card is result would be a better name, equal array dot nums dot map, open bracket, going to be I x. What is this? value I index numbers array. What the fuck? It's like an arrow. In JavaScript isn't like this, right? Isn't like this. So we do I this I I, and it's going to be console dot log result. Run. Array is not defined. Why the hell? Oh, should be nums. Yeah, there we go. Woo! Alice Bob is going to be uppers. Const result. Const name uppers. Name capital equal names dot map open bracket I dot uppers. We have to declare I dot uppers, and then we do console log name capitals. We do two uppers. Wow. Wait, two uppers, like two uppers. Wow, it's so hard today. How many days did it take you to master JS? It's a lifelong skill. I would say mastered, it would take a long time, but I would say to learn it only takes like 2-3 weeks. How many projects did you do in JS before moving on to React or another? I did around 3 or 4 projects, maybe 6. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. I did a basketball counters, a ticket counters. I would say 6. I did 6 of JS project before moving to React. It's basically the same thing, just React has some different like syntax that you have to remember. Other than that, it's basically just React. It's just JavaScript. The idea is pretty simple. Text uppers. I dot two uppercase, right? Two uppercase. I think I'm doing. I'm sort of feeling stuck. Well, you can do as many you want. It's like a lifelong skill that the more you do, the better you are. I'm not really good at JS as well, but I'm trying to move, and not stay at one place. Sometimes I feel bored, but like I'm keep doing just one. I need to think of something else that I need to learn, right? And yeah, React is pretty fun. Pretty fun. Is this? Wait, 2 capitals. What is it called? yeah, if you're feeling stuck, just move on to something else, and then you can come back. Sometimes it works. It really works, because like when you're stuck on something, you think about it some other time instead of sitting down and just contemplating about it. It would not work, because at that moment you are stuck. You're into a dead end. You need to like think of it in another time so that your mind is clear, and it becomes way easier. It's become way easier. Sometimes you like at that moment, maybe at that moment you overcomplicated it, and sometimes I do that a lot of time. How do I capitalize? Capitalize first letters, string. There's a function called capitalize first letters. Doo-doo-doo. String.slice. Well, this look kind of characters at 0, and string character at 0. So character at 0, sometimes it's going to be here. Can I do this? And then we do car add. Sometime only one. Eee. Huh? What? Why it doesn't work? So many ads. First lower slide size. String to complete. The first letter has been uppercase, and so now you got that. And next we need the rest of the letters, so we can extract using slice. Slice 1. Extract the entire string except the first letters. Dot slice. Plus slice. Plus slice. Lower dot slice 1. Lowest dot slice 1. Not slice, but slice. What the frick? Lower dot slice. So we need to do const. What's it? Const lowest equals string dot const lowest equal to lowercase. Wait, lower dot lowercase, right? String. What is it? Are you doing this from Scrimba? Yeah, I'm doing it from Scrimbas. It's actually pretty good course from Scrimba as well. They are specialized in web development. So it's really good. It's really good. I would rate it 10 out of 10. Not 10 out of 10. Sometimes maybe a 9, 9.5. Highly appreciate what they do at Scrimbas. We do here. What we need to do here, yeah, let's just I slice 1. Ah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I took the free JS course for Scrimba. Yeah, it's really good. I took that one at first. I'm like, I'm hooked. I need to do more. So I take the chunky, the big boy courses from Scrimba. I'm having around 50% left. This course actually take around 3 to 6 months, depends on how much that you do, how much that you can do. I would say for me, I think I did it already for 1 month, so I'm expecting to finish it within 2 months, sometimes 3. Well, but I want to take this React and like JS slow. I just go through the CSS and like HTML because since I already know it. Yeah. So that's why I'm going a little bit fast. I think you did the same project that I did as well. Is it the game? What is it called? No, the unit converters. The what is it called? I forgot. Password generators. It's really nice. It's really nice. It's teaching you fundamentals, JavaScript, right? It's fundamentals JavaScript. Really good. Right, so I at character 0, so this dot map, it's going to take this. It's called the like the counters. Character at 1 to uppercase. Now the character is at 0, so it's like boop 0 0 0 0. It's going to be uppercase, and then the rest is going to be lowercase. I slice 1. I slice 1. What did this slice do? Part of J. Yep. Yeah, so it's basically the same course that I took. So let's keep doing this. React just like JavaScript. If you get if you're good with JavaScript, you're pretty much set with React. What you need to do, you need to know some HTML as well, and then you will be good. Given an array of string, return an array of strings and wrap each of the original string in an HTML like. So we do const Pokemon new equal Pokemon. I know HTML, no decent JavaScript, I think, but I haven't touched CSS. Do you think I should go back to CSS? Well, to me, I think that, well, it's hard to say because CSS is really needed. I hate CSS as well, but people like things to look pretty, right? Just like me, like you, we like pretty girls, right? So learning CSS is like, you don't have to like be an expert in CSS because that language is like meh, it's like a meh. So I would say HTML, in React we mainly work with HTML and React, or like CSS. You could say it's CSS. So to me, CSS, you need to know like a little bit about CSS. Yeah, just know some responsive design stuff, and it's included in this course. I haven't finished it. I hate CSS, so I'm not really good with. I'm okay with CSS. I know some stuff. You just need to go through the fundamentals, the responsive design, right? Responsive design. You can skip this. It's just CSS, but this essential CSS concept, maybe I would touch on it. But if you are okay with like CSS, I would say responsive design. Probably the most important thing in CSS, to make it like fit in the screen, and then like, oh, when it's like computer is going to be this size, when it's mobiles it's going to be this size. So yeah, I would say I would highly recommend you go through this responsive design. I think the course is online as well as on YouTube. You can search it. And then just some CSS you can search it online most of the time. I don't remember a lot of the CSS code, but I just Google it online. So yeah. Let me go to Pokemon.map here, and we do first of all we need a P. I'm not sure if this is going to work. /P, and we do I. Try and run it. 41. Const console.log. Pokemon new. Bam. Yes, not defined. Maybe because of this, I have to convert it into an HTML. So we do this, right? Let's try this. Can it work? Boom! There we go. There we go. Let's just watch, and maybe we can find a better way of doing this. But here is my result for this. I haven't watched it. So yeah.
Using the .map method. So pause now and start working on challenge 1.
Challenge 1 is basically just square of 1, square of 2, square of 3, square of 4, square of 5. So you just time it by the same numbers.
Okay, so the first thing we'll do is run nums.map. .map takes a callback function, and I'm going to use a function declaration just for now to better understand exactly what's going on here. And this callback function is going to run for every item in my array that I'm running .map.
Yeah, this is the thing that I learned from JavaScript. .map function. It's a nice one. It's a nice function. Instead of writing a for loops, you can. All right. Peace out. Peace out. Nice to meet you, Rohan. Nice to meet you. Peace. Have a nice day, man. Have a nice Monday.
Map on. And then whatever I return from this function, so I'm going to add a return inside here, whatever I return from this function will get placed at the same index as the original item with whatever kind of modification we make to it. And then in the end, .map returns a brand new array that will be the exact same length as the original array. And so we should probably be saving that. Let's say const, and these are squares, so we'll say squares is equal to the array that comes back from calling nums.map, and then this function will be taking a look at every item, or probably better is to say it's going to look at each number, or num, inside of the original array, and then we will have it return num times num. That'll give us the square of that number. Now if I console log squares, we should get our output of 1, 4, 9, 16, and 25 in an array. And sure enough, there it is. Okay, let's move on to challenge 2. I'm going to comment out this console log. This time, given an array of strings, return an array where the first letter of each string is capitalized. At this point, you might be recognizing we're essentially just doing some JavaScript algorithm challenges here. Obviously, do a quick search on Google if you need to. So now it's your time again. Pause and work on challenge number 2.
Challenge number 2 completed, guys. Completed.
We'll run first a return, but then so I'm going to use that syntax, and over time, I think you'll just get used to it the more you see it. I'll start out by opening up the body of this function and using a return, but then we'll use some of the benefits of an arrow function by removing some of these extra characters that we don't need. Now, this function is going to be looking at each of the names inside of the names array, so we'll call it name. And like I mentioned, now we're essentially just doing a JavaScript algorithm challenge. So I'll say we want to return, and we can actually index into strings as if they were an array. So I'm going to say, get me the first character of this name, and we'll call dot to uppercase. And then I bet many of you came across the dot slice method. So I'm going to use name dot slice starting at index 1. Now, if I don't provide a second parameter, it means just start at index of 1, or in other words, the second character of the string, and give me everything from that point until the end. Honestly, I'm winging it a little bit, so we'll see if this is working. I'm going to console log capitalized, and let's run it and see how we did. Okay, that looks awesome. Great, now that brings us to challenge number 3, and this is the one that...
Wait, why name here? If we say like this, it's supposed to be 1, 2, and 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, right? Why is it reading name and then it's a, maybe it's mapping in name? I don't know.
Something that gets displayed on the screen by React. This time you have another array of strings. We have a few different Pokemon names here. And your job is to use the .map method to return a new array of strings. This time the strings are kind of like HTML strings, where they're surrounded with these paragraph tags, opening and closing tags. Keep in mind, we are not doing anything React specific. There's nothing special about putting the paragraph elements or the paragraph tags around the text that you want, but this will be very similar to what we do when it comes time to do this in React. So pause now and work on challenge number 3.
Challenge number 3 also completed. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. We have all the answer for all the thingy. This one is probably the most basic. No, this one is the easiest. And then this one, and then this one. This one we need to do a little bit of Googles. So it's basically just running a loop. .map is just for loops. What is it called? I forgot the words. Simplified for loops. .map is just a simplified for loops. Basically run every characters. Right? It's basically run now I, and then in each I is going to be this. We add a HTML tag to it, and then since it is HTML, you have to do this. This is a template string, so you have to add this. And then inside a template string, you can call a JavaScript using this. It's pretty much basic stuff.
All right, hopefully you found that was maybe even easier than challenge number 2. Let's start off by creating a new variable. Maybe let's call it paragraphs.
Well, this one is nice as well.
And we'll set that equal to the array that comes back from calling Pokemon.map. And this time let's use an arrow function again. I'm going to look at every single, well, let's see, I think Pokemon is both the singular and the plural form of Pokemon, so maybe we'll just call this Mon for individual monsters. And let's start out by opening the body of this function like we did before, and then I think we'll go through and clean up some of our arrow function extra characters that we have. So I'm going to return, and essentially all I'm doing is taking the string of my individual monster, Mon, and surrounding it with the paragraph opening and closing tags. So I'll use a template string here, and we'll put in our paragraph tags like this, but then in the middle, I will just inject the individual string of the Pokemon. And now if we console log paragraphs, okay, we get an array of, well, they're still just string, and then I can do the same thing up here. Now this return value is a little bit longer, so you can dart that on in the first place. Yeah, I guess the parentheses really aren't that necessary. I think I like them there just for maybe my own sake in keeping things balanced, but you can do it however you want.
React render array.
I think now is probably a good time to remember that JSX just returns a regular JavaScript object. We can see that if I were to set, let's say, a new variable called element equal to some JSX, and we'll say
JSX.
And then if I console log element, what we actually get back is just a plain old JavaScript object. The properties and the shape of this object get determined by React in order to describe the element that React eventually will be turning into a real DOM node that shows up on our screen. But the reason that I mention this is because when you get deeper and deeper into web development and actually programming in general, you'll discover that most arrays don't end up being an array of simple strings like we sometimes use for examples like this. Instead, it's probably most common to find arrays end up being an array of objects. Let's keep this example simple. We'll say it's a first name and a last name in this object. That's because data is usually a lot more complicated than just what can be represented by a simple string, and so we use objects to represent.
Guys, let me go grab some coffee. I'm feeling a little bit tired. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I'm back. Check out my cold brew. Woo! Lullabies. Well, I should like make some cold brew.
Pieces of data in a lot more detail. Well, there's a little special feature of React, and that is that if we provide an array into what we're rendering from our component, React will know how to essentially map over that array and turn it into elements. Let me clean some of this up and show you a little bit more what I mean. Let's say we create this array of colors, and I'm just going to put in the colors of the rainbow. Of course, I just got done mentioning that usually we don't have an array of strings, but this is just to illustrate a point. Inside of my return, when I'm returning the elements that I actually want to put on the page, I can give React this array and let it render it to the page. Now, I can't just say colors, because then it's going to put the actual word colors on there, so I'll surround it in curly braces, and now essentially what it's going to do is copy this. Basically, I could have just done this in its place. So we'll take this one step at a time. Let's look at it this way. Now, obviously, this is not beautiful, and we can tell already that it's essentially just putting these together as blank text. I haven't taught React that I want these to be paragraphs or headers or ordered lists or anything like that. Now, of course, if I do want to use my variable colors up here, I can essentially just put colors here, and I still, of course, need my curly braces here. When I hit save, I get the same result. But now I want you to do a little challenge to experiment with what will happen if you change these from strings into JSX elements. Okay, simple enough. I just want you to essentially change these strings into JSX elements, and I said H3. You can do whatever element you want. Then I want to make sure that you hit save or refresh and see exactly how what we have currently changes when you do that. Pause the screencast and work on this challenge.
Wait a minute. Challenge, turn the string into H3 element instead. So it's going to be template string H3. Turn the string into H3. Boom. Right, just like that, and we are good. Boom.
Okay, let's see what happens when I hit save. Awesome, now I actually got a list of JSX elements.
Oh, so you want a list? Fuck. H3, H3, H3. Okay,
In some
I
ways,
see.
it's kind of like React took the elements here and just copied and pasted them onto the screen. Of course, I would need to get rid of all these commas for that to work correctly, but I get the same result this way. But let's put it back to colors so that it works the way it's supposed to work. Okay, now we are poised to take what we just talked about and reviewed with .map and what we just learned about where React can render an array of JSX elements and put those concepts together, which will allow us to, instead of hard coding our data directly into our components like we're doing here, instead we can get data from outside of our little system, map over it, and render a new component for every piece of data. In other words, in the next screencast, we're going to see a jokes.js file, which has essentially the same thing, but in a JavaScript array of objects. And we'll get to pull those in and map over them, create an array of JSX elements, and then render those to the screen. So when you're feeling ready, let's go forward.
Mapping components.
Let me walk you through
Oh, what the frick?
a couple of changes.
There's so many
I made
things.
to the code that we were just looking at.
Jesus.
Of course, you probably noticed I moved all of our hard-coded joke components outside of our component here and just commented them out so we can still reference them. I've also changed our jokes.markdown file into a jokesdata.javascript file. Now, we're not quite ready to make API calls and then make use of the data that comes back. So I'm going to be kind of mimicking that with this jokes.js file that's exporting an array of these joke objects. Over in our app.js, I'm going to import the jokes, I'll say jokes data,
Jokes data.
from that file,
Jokes
data.
data.
And we can see that if I console log jokes data, I should get the array of jokes. Okay, great. Now combining what we just learned with .map and with creating an array of JSX elements, I can put those two concepts together. What I'm going to do is create a variable, let's call it joke elements. And this is going to be not an array that I'm defining right now, but instead the array that gets returned when I call jokesdata.map. Inside of my .map, I'm going to take a look at each one of my joke objects that I can return. I'll do this on its own line just so we can see a little more clearly what's happening. I'm going to return a joke component. However, I can pass the data from this individual joke object to my joke component. So maybe this is a good opportunity for you to put on your thinking cap and do a quick little challenge.
This is like a new thing. Cause joke.map joke. So now it's counting joke. Joke. Oh, so it's joke and then return the joke that it mapped through into this joke data. So there's 1, 2, there's 3. Oh, I see. Wow, this is actually brilliant. Brilliant.
The challenge is to see if you can pass the props to our joke component in the correct way, and then of course render our joke elements array so that when you're all done, all of our jokes show up on the page again. Pause the screencast and see if you can complete this challenge.
But we can correctly pass the necessary prop to the joke component in .map. So you can correctly pass the necessary prop to the joke component. Joke components to the joke component in the .map. Joke component in the .map and render the joke element arrays so it returns. Wait, is it this? Jokes elements. Punchline, 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 punchline. Turn the joke data.map. Should have a key prompt. Oh, app. What should it be? See if you can correctly pass an accessory prop to the joke components. Joke components. Setup. Setup. Punchline. Alright, let's see that. Run. Fuck. Fuck, man. Fuck. Joke elements. It should be a, yeah, could be jokes element, you know. There's no joke. No jokes. Get it? No jokes. It could be no joke. It could be a joke element. No jokes. Ah. Hmm. Hey. Ah. Setup and punchline. Oop. Mother truckers.
These objects that we see here. So they have a setup property and a punchline property, which means over here.
Oh, we passing there. Got it. Not in the freaking. Right, we do redo this. Joke elements. This one is right. So it's props, right? It used to be props. Props. Copy. Boom. Dot. And boom. Dot. That's good. Now as we pass it into this joke. What a joke. What a joke. Setup. Punchline. Bum 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 bum. Do. Expression expected. Maybe we can pass in props. Props. Right? And then we turn jokes. Joke elements. Unexpected tokens. What does it say? Unique key props. Method apps. Setup. And slash punchline.
Here, I can say my joke has a setup prop, and this has to be spelled exactly this way because our joke component is expecting props.setup. This setup prop will be equal to, and then I need to use my curly braces because I'm leaving JSX and going into JavaScript. Let's say joke.setup. Now it just so happens that I'm using the same
Got it. Gucci. I was a little bit on the right. And then we do props dot setup equal props dot punchline. What the fuck, man? Crossing.
If you can complete this challenge, you'll need my punchline. And this is going to be joke.punchline.
What is a joke? Should be uppercase, no?
Because the actual data has a punchline property in each of these joke objects. Now I'm not quite done. I can hit save. Nothing's going to show up on the screen.
There we go.
And that's because I'm stokes back on the page. If we're being really stingy, I could use the implicit return to just return my joke element. I'm not going to worry too much about that, especially because it makes it a little too wide horizontally there. Awesome. Okay, we have taken a number of asides. Once again, I'm going to bring us back to our Airbnb experiences clone, and we're going to take this concept and actually build these.
Right, guys, we are going to do this tonight.
This time, using data that we get from a file.
I need to go to the gym now.
Into our code. Make sure you have studied this and understand
It's a hot day
before
today.
you move on. And when you're ready, let's jump back into our section project.
Map quiz. We'll do this tonight. I'll end the stream here. See you guys at night. I'll be up around 8 or 8:30, something like that. All right. See you guys. See you guys. You guys have a nice day. Yeah. Hope you guys have a nice day. See you guys in tonight. This evening, it's going to be a nice stream. It's going to be a nice one. We are going to